2020 is just about over, guys. And people are going to start ringing the new year in, 2021. And it's going to be a great year. We're going to be positive. We're going to keep our eye on the good Lord. And He's going to get us through this. So, like everybody does, most people, they have a tradition of making a big old pot of black-eyed peas and hog jowl or something for the new year. But I've got a recipe I think you're really going to like because it just takes a pot of black-eyed peas up a notch. We love good gumbo, and this is going to be a really good recipe because it uses a roux and just gives it a really good, rich taste. So let's get started. It's easy, and we're even going to throw some beer bread in there too. So let's get started. Okay, I got my skillet on here on about medium heat. I've got 1 cup of oil. I use peanut oil. Use whatever you got. If you got vegetable oil, whatever. And I've got 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. And that's all there is to this roux. We're going to stir that up. And it's going to come together real quick. It seems kind of lumpy, but it's going to smooth out. Just keep stirring it. Now, I can tell you, making homemade roux, it's a labor of love, but it's just so much better than store-bought. Now, there is a lot of good store-bought roux out there. You buy it in a jar, I think. I've never bought any, but I know people that do, and they like it. But it's not that this is hard at all. It's just a little time-consuming. But we're going to keep stirring this, and I'm going to get my other stuff ready. And in about 45 minutes, we should have pretty good roux. Okay, I want to come back and show you what it looks like. And this is about 12 minutes of it cooking. And we still got a ways to go. So I'm just cutting up veggies and stuff and keeping it stirred. But it takes a little while. But it'll be oh so good. Okay, I want to come back again and show you the color of the roux. And this is about after 25 minutes. And so I just keep coming back and stirring it. And you can see how it just keeps getting darker and darker. About the color of peanut butter, but we still got another 15-20 minutes. Okay, while we're waiting on the roux to cook, we're going to mix up some beer bread. And it's real easy. I've got 3 cups of self-rising flour. And I've got 1 tablespoon of sugar. And I think this is like, I don't know, probably a good teaspoon of powdered garlic powder. And I've got, this is a dark lager beer. Now, y'all know I don't drink beer, but I do make beer bread. And what you do is you open your beer up and you let it get flat. But I didn't open mine up in time, so it's going to be a little bit fizzy. But this is 12 ounces of a good dark lager beer. And we're just going to start stirring this up. Now, the thing about beer bread is the alcohol is going to cook out of it. So you're not going to be getting the alcohol. You're just going to be getting that taste, that yeasty taste probably. It's not one of Mr. Brown's favorite. He's not real big on a yeasty taste, but it just gives it a good taste if you like beer bread. Some people like it, some people don't. But to me, beer bread goes really good with gumbo. So anyways, that's what we're going to mix up. So we're going to put the whole 12 ounces in there. We're just going to get this stirred up real good. It'll be kind of lumpy, but that's okay. It's going to be a little bit thick. But it'll all come together. I'm going to get my loaf pan. I think my loaf pan is like 8 by 8.5 by 4.5. And I'll get it together and get it greased. Okay, we're going to go ahead, and I've got a half a stick of butter melted, but we're only going to put half of that, so about 1/4 of a cup or so in there, and mix that up good. So far you got your flour, your sugar, your beer, your butter, your garlic powder, and all we're going to need now is, I got my bread pan. I just went ahead and buttered it real good before I put my bread in there. And we're going to add a can of green chilies. Now, if you don't want to put green chilies, but you've got some jalapenos you want to put in there, it'll be really good. But I'm going to use green chilies because me and Mr. Brown are wimpies when it comes to spicy food. And we like the taste of green chilies. But you can sub it with jalapenos. It'll be good. Just put in how many you want. And so the only other thing you need is about a cup of shredded cheddar cheese. Or any kind of cheese, really. Whatever you like. We like cheddar in our different breads like this. So that's what we're going to use. And we're just going to fold this in there real good. And that was pretty easy peasy to get mixed up and get together. It didn't take very long. And it just makes a really good bread. It's really good with gumbo. So we're going to get this in our pan and get it in the oven. 375 degree oven. I'm using 2 cups of dry beans. I've washed them and rinsed them. And getting them ready. Okay, we're back to our roux, and it's a beautiful color. Some people like it a little bit darker, but this is how I like it. It's a good color. 45 minutes to get it here. If you like it a little bit darker, cook it just a little bit longer. It is thick, and once you stir it, the oil and everything will come back together. But this is the roux for the gumbo. So let's get it all together. Okay, now that I got my roux off the stove, we're going to get our bread in our pan. Now, I buttered my pan with some of that butter I had melted. And we're just going to get our batter in here. And like I said, I think this is an 8.5 by 4.5 or an 8 by 4. I can't remember. But that's about the size you need. So we're just going to get in here. And my oven is at 375. And I can't really tell you. I'm going to say between 30 to 45 minutes. It's all going to depend on your oven. The way you're going to be able to tell is you'll insert a knife, and if it comes out clean, you'll know your bread's good and done all the way through and through. If it comes out with just a little bit sticky on it, you need to stick it back in the oven and let it cook a little bit longer. But everybody's oven's different. That's why I always say to check it. I try to give you an overall time on different stuff, but it's always different. So now what we're going to do is take the rest of our butter, and you can just brush it on there. This is just going to soak into your bread and make it good and moist, and it's going to make it brown on top. It'll make it good. We'll just pour it all on there. What do you say? So the oven's ready. We're going to get it in there and get it baking, and we're going to finish up on our gumbo. Okay, we're going to start sweating our veggies here. We've got 2 tablespoons of olive oil. I've got a cup of diced onions, a cup of cut up bell peppers, and I've got about 4 stalks of celery that I diced up, and I've got a big heaping tablespoon of garlic. And we're just going to saute this and let it sweat down and get real tender. Okay, our roux's done and our veggies are done. Let's get these mixed up. So we're going to get our roux, get it up here, and get it in our pot with our veggies. And this roux is just what gives gumbo that rich, I don't know, it's such a rich, good taste. And that's just my favorite part of gumbo is the roux. I'm just very fond of it. My family being from Texas, we eat a lot of gumbo. We just love it. We're not professionals at cooking a good gumbo. We just know how we cook it. There's a lot of good recipes out there. And people in Louisiana really know how to cook a good gumbo, that's for sure. But it's just one of my favorites. So we're going to get that all in there. Don't waste any of that beautiful roux. That's like liquid gold there. We're going to get it mixed up. I'm using my ham broth. And I've got about 3 quarts of ham broth. You can use ham broth. You can use chicken broth. You can use veggie broth. Just whatever you've got. If you don't have enough broth and you need to add just a little bit of water to it, you can do that too. Some of my ham broth has got some fat that come up to the top of the jar, which is okay because that will just dissolve and cook down, just make it taste good. So I ended up with just probably about a half a cup left in that last jar of ham broth. But I probably needed a bigger stew pot's what I needed, but this is what I got. I'm going to stick it back here on the fire, and I'm going to let this start simmering. Then we're going to get our black-eyed peas, and we're going to put our 2 cups of black-eyed peas in there. Now, they don't take very long for black-eyed peas to cook. Unlike pinto beans and white beans and different beans, black-eyed peas will usually cook up in about 45 minutes and be good and tender. They just don't take as long. Because when I cook a big pot of brown beans, I cook it about half a day. Because I like my beans really good and tender. But black-eyed peas are just a little bit faster on cooking. So what we're going to do is we're going to stop here. That's all we're going to put in there except our seasonings. And we have several seasonings that we're going to put in here. We've got some oregano. It's about a teaspoon of oregano and about probably a teaspoon of thyme. I'm going to put just about a teaspoon of sugar in there. I've got some onion powder. Put about a teaspoon of onion powder. I'm going to put some salt. I'm going to put about probably a teaspoon of garlic powder. I'm going to put some of my Cajun seasoning in here. Now, y'all put as much Cajun seasoning or Creole seasoning, whatever y'all use. Put as much as you like. Me, I put about half a teaspoon. I don't know, maybe a teaspoon. I'll put a little bit more. It'll be good, just as long as it's not too spicy. We're going to put a little bit of salt. And we're going to put some pepper. And I've got some bay leaves I need to put in there. We're just going to stir this up good. And I'm going to bring this to a simmer. And I want this to simmer for at least 45 minutes. I'm going to let it simmer till the peas good and tender. And if it doesn't look like enough black-eyed peas to you, put another handful in there. But you're going to have a lot more in there. You're going to have some bacon, you're going to have kielbasa, you're going to have kale, and plus you're going to be putting it on rice. So, but them black-eyed peas will swell up a little bit too, and kind of fill that up. So, we'll put the lid on this and we'll let it simmer a little bit. Well, I forgot my 3 bay leaves. They're in there now. Okay, we're going to start cooking our bacon. Now, this is where you can pretty much use whatever you've got. I've got some bacon ends here. This was from a hog that was processed, and it's just the bacon ends, the chunky ends that were extra. And if you just got regular bacon, you can use bacon. This is about a pound. So there's about a pound of bacon that you want to fry up. You can use ham. If you got ham pieces, maybe you got ham left over from Thanksgiving or Christmas that you need to use up. You can use that, render it up. You can use hog jowl. Just cut you up some hog jowl and fry it up. Anything like that. It's just whatever you want to use. Our bacon has cooked up really good, and I've got a big tablespoon of minced garlic. We're going to put in there, and we're just going to saute that just a little bit. And this is where our kale comes in. Kale, or if you like collards, whichever you got, you can use. Both would be good. Mr. Brown and I really like kale. So we're going to take our kale, And I've got about 16 ounces of kale. But we're going to have to just cook a little bit of time, let it wilt down, and then we'll add some more. But we're going to add as much as we can to this pot before I add more. We're going to let it wilt down. Put your little bit of salt and pepper on it. It won't take long for it to start wilting. Okay, we're going to start, and we're going to layer our kielbasa now on top of this kale. And you see how that kale has cooked down a little bit. So now we're going to put our kielbasa on top of that, because I want to just kind of saute it and cook that kielbasa just a little bit before we put it in with our beans. And plus that flavors up your kale really good too. And I've got beef kielbasa, and I've got some chicken kielbasa too that I need to use up. So now we're going to put try to get the rest of the kale on there. And you know, it's amazing how greens cook down. They cook down so much, and it takes a lot. It takes a lot of kale, a lot of greens to make a decent pot of greens, because they cook down so much. But they're so good for you. Greens are just so good for you. So many vitamins in them. So much that you need for your body. And we just love kale. I'm going to put me some salt, some pepper, and most of the time when you're cooking greens, you want to put you a little bit of vinegar in there. And I'm going to put a little bit of white wine vinegar in here. Just use whatever kind of vinegar you've got. This is what I'm using. We're just going to stir this up a little bit and just let it kind of wilt down, and all them flavors just kind of come together before we put them in there with our beans. And I could eat this by itself just like this. And you can just imagine how good my kitchen is smelling right now. It's smelling so good. Okay, now our black-eyed peas are good and tender. It's been about 45 minutes. So now I'm going to take this pan and dump it over here into this pot. And this does make quite a bit. This will feed quite a few people. I mean, you can't go wrong with this. All this goodness. It's going to be so good. My rice is done. You can see how it's just come together. It's so pretty too. It makes a pretty pot of beans. Look at them. Them peas are good and done, thickened up, plumped up. Just really pretty. Now, what we don't eat and what we don't eat tomorrow is leftovers. I'll put in the freezer. I'll put them in some containers, and I'll put them in the freezer. And they'll be good. Now, there's a bay leaf. Make sure you find your bay leaves. Mr. Brown always finds mine. Sometimes I forget to take them out, and he always finds them. But look how pretty that is. Is that not a pretty pot of black-eyed pea and kale gumbo? So pretty. So I'm just going to let this simmer just maybe 10-15 minutes. Just let everything kind of marry together. And then we're going to sit down and eat us some gumbo. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to dish this yumminess up, and we're going to sit down and eat. The rice is done. A lot of times I just cook my rice in the oven. And all I do is put if you just want like a cup of rice, just put like a cup of raw rice to 2 cups of water. I just put a little butter in there, put full on it, put it in 375-degree oven. And usually within, I don't know, 30-35 minutes, my rice is just right. It all depends on your oven though. And it's just the easy way to cook you some good fluffy rice that don't get too done. It's just, to me, it's just right. So we got our rice in there. Now we're gonna dish up this really good black-eyed pea and kale gumbo. And this is just a really nice way to do something a little different than just a big pot of black-eyed peas. I'm not the biggest fan of just a big old pot of black-eyed peas. So don't get me wrong, I love my beans, but black-eyed peas is not my favorite. But I'm going to tell you, I love this. This is really good. So we're going to sit down and eat.
I like your company, don't get me wrong.
Yeah. I might put you to work here in a little bit. Anyways, I hope y'all like this recipe, and we'll see y'all in a couple days. Maybe see you again tomorrow. Our internet has been awful, so it's taken a long time for stuff to upload, but that's okay as long as it gets done. But we're going to wish y'all all the blessings for a happy new year.
Happy New Year, yeah.
I don't figure I'll stay up and ring it in, because by 8 o'clock, I'm done.
I'm liable to be here, but I don't think I'll ring it in. I guess I could run around the house and ring the cowbell.
And I'll hit you in the head that thing. Used to when we was young, we'd stay up till midnight with the kids. You remember that?
Yeah.
Then we'd all go to bed. But as you get older, that don't happen. Well, some people do. We just don't have the energy.
This is so good.
I'm glad you like it.